If you're over 50 and feel like your body's suddenly aged overnight, this is the reason, and it's fixable. Rapid aging isn't caused by birthdays. It happens when key systems in the body slow down quietly, long before most people notice. Energy drops, recovery takes longer, and everything feels heavier than it should. The good news is this process isn't permanent. Stay with us to learn what's really happening and what you can do today to slow it down. Like, subscribe, and let us know your age in the comments. For most people, aging doesn't feel gradual. It feels sudden. 1 year you recover quickly, sleep well, and move without thinking about it. Then, almost without warning, fatigue lingers longer. Joints feel stiff for no clear reason, and strength seems harder to hold on to. This shift is often blamed on age itself, but biology tells a very different story. Aging accelerates when the body's internal maintenance systems begin to fall behind. Every day your cells are damaged by normal processes like metabolism, movement, and even breathing. In younger years, repair keeps pace with damage. Cells clean themselves, proteins are rebuilt efficiently, and inflammation shuts off once its job is done. After midlife, that balance quietly changes. One of the earliest triggers is declining cellular cleanup, a process known as autophagy. This system works like a recycling center inside your cells, breaking down damaged components so they can be reused. When autophagy slows, worn-out cellular parts accumulate, cells become less efficient, tissues lose resilience, and energy production drops. You don't feel older because time passed. You feel older because cleanup slowed. At the same time, blood sugar regulation becomes less flexible. Cells grow slightly resistant to insulin, meaning glucose stays in the bloodstream longer. This excess sugar attaches to proteins in a process called glycation, making tissues stiffer and more fragile. Skin loses elasticity. Blood vessels lose responsiveness. Joints feel less forgiving. These changes happen internally long before they are visible. Another key factor is chronic low-grade inflammation. Unlike acute inflammation that helps heal injuries, this background inflammation stays switched on. It quietly interferes with hormone signaling, muscle repair, and immune function. The body is constantly distracted, spending energy managing irritation instead of rebuilding strength. None of these shifts are dramatic on their own. That's why they're easy to miss. But together, they create the sensation of sudden aging. The body hasn't failed. It has adapted to years of small signals that told it to prioritize survival over renewal. Understanding this matters because these systems are responsive. Cellular cleanup can be stimulated. Blood sugar handling can improve. Inflammation can be reduced. Aging speeds up when maintenance slows, but when maintenance is restored, the body often responds faster than people expect. The first step to staying young isn't fighting age. It's supporting the systems that keep the body running well at any age. The most misleading thing about aging is that the earliest changes don't announce themselves. There is no alarm, no sharp pain, no single moment you can point to and say, this is when it started. Instead, several quiet systems begin to slow at the same time, each just enough to be overlooked, until their combined effect becomes impossible to ignore. One of the first systems to change is energy production at the cellular level. Inside every cell are mitochondria, structures responsible for turning food and oxygen into usable energy. In earlier years, these power plants are efficient and adaptable. After midlife, mitochondrial output often declines. Cells still produce energy, but with more effort and more waste. This is why fatigue after 50 feels different. It's not just being tired, it's feeling like energy runs out faster and returns more slowly. Circulation also begins to lose elasticity. Blood vessels naturally stiffen with time, especially when exposed to inflammation and excess blood sugar. When vessels don't expand and contract as easily, tissues receive slightly less oxygen and nutrients. Muscles warm up slower, healing takes longer, brain fog becomes more noticeable. None of this feels dramatic on its own, but it subtly reduces how alive the body feels during everyday movement. The nervous system is another early changer. Nerve signaling speed gradually slows, affecting coordination, reaction time, and balance. Messages between the brain and muscles don't travel as efficiently. This can show up as clumsiness, weaker grip strength, or feeling less steady on uneven ground. These are often brushed off as normal aging, but they are signs of systems losing efficiency, not breaking down. Digestion and absorption also shift. The stomach may produce less acid, and the intestines may absorb nutrients less effectively. This means that even with the same diet, the body may receive fewer building blocks for repair. Muscles struggle to rebuild. Bones receive fewer minerals. The immune system becomes less responsive. People assume they need more supplements, when the deeper issue is absorption and utilization. What connects all these systems is not age itself, but reduced adaptability. The body becomes less flexible in how it responds to stress, food, movement, and rest. This is why the same habits that once worked suddenly stop working. The encouraging truth is that these systems are highly responsive when properly supported. They slow quietly, but they can also recover quietly. Recognizing which systems change first is the key to slowing aging before it feels permanent. Inflammation is one of the most misunderstood forces in the aging body. Most people think of it only in terms of swelling, pain, or injury. But the type of inflammation that accelerates aging is far quieter. You don't feel it directly, and that's exactly why it's so powerful. This form of inflammation is low-grade and chronic. It hums in the background day after day, triggered by factors like blood sugar spikes, poor sleep, stress, inactivity, nutrient deficiencies, and even unresolved infections. Unlike short-term inflammation, which helps the body heal, chronic inflammation never fully shuts off. It keeps the immune system slightly activated at all times, draining energy and disrupting repair. One of the first places this inflammation causes damage is in the blood vessels. The inner lining of arteries becomes irritated and less responsive. Blood flow becomes less efficient, which means muscles, joints, and even the brain receive fewer nutrients and less oxygen. This contributes to stiffness, slower reaction times, and mental fog that many people notice after 50. Inflammation also interferes directly with hormones. It reduces sensitivity to insulin, making blood sugar harder to control. It disrupts thyroid signaling, which affects metabolism and body temperature. It even alters how cortisol behaves, leading to a cycle of stress, poor sleep, and fatigue. None of this happens overnight, but once these systems are disturbed together, aging feels like it has accelerated. Muscle tissue is especially vulnerable. Inflammatory signals blunt the body's ability to build and maintain muscle, even when protein intake is adequate. This leads to gradual muscle loss, weakness, and reduced stability. Less muscle means lower metabolic rate, which further increases inflammation. It becomes a feedback loop that pushes the body toward decline unless interrupted. The brain is not spared either. Chronic inflammation affects neurotransmitters involved in motivation, mood, and focus. People often describe this as feeling flat or less sharp. It's not a loss of intelligence, it's a change in the brain's chemical environment. The most important thing to understand is that inflammation is not a moral failure. It is not caused by laziness or lack of discipline. It is a biological response to repeated signals that the body interprets as stress or threat. The good news is that inflammation is one of the most responsive aging accelerators. When the right inputs change, movement, nutrition, sleep, and metabolic balance, the inflammatory signal quiets. And when it does, many signs of aging begin to slow, sometimes faster than expected. One of the most visible signs of accelerated aging is a sudden drop in strength and stamina. Tasks that once felt effortless begin to feel draining. Getting up from a chair takes more thought. Carrying groceries feels heavier than it should. This isn't just about getting older, it's about the tight connection between muscle tissue and hormones. Muscle is not just for movement, it is a metabolically active organ that plays a major role in blood sugar control, hormone balance, and inflammation regulation. After midlife, the body becomes less efficient at preserving muscle, a process known as sarcopenia. Without intentional signals to keep muscle active, the body gradually breaks it down. At the same time, key hormones begin to shift. Growth hormone and testosterone, which support tissue repair and muscle maintenance, naturally decline. Estrogen changes alter how muscles recover and how fat is stored. Insulin becomes less effective, making it harder for muscle cells to absorb glucose and amino acids. The result is a perfect storm. Muscles receive fewer building blocks and weaker repair signals. This hormonal shift explains why energy crashes feel different after 50. In earlier years, fatigue was often resolved with sleep. Now, rest alone doesn't fully restore vitality. Without adequate muscle activity and hormonal support, the body struggles to generate steady energy throughout the day. Blood sugar fluctuates more dramatically, leading to afternoon crashes and morning stiffness. Loss of muscle also affects balance and joint stability. Muscles act as shock absorbers and stabilizers. When they weaken, joints take on more stress, increasing discomfort and injury risk. This often leads people to move less, which further accelerates muscle loss. The cycle feeds itself quietly. Another overlooked consequence is the impact on mood and confidence. Muscle tissue influences the release of myokines, chemical messengers that support brain health and emotional regulation. As muscle mass declines, these beneficial signals decrease, contributing to low motivation and reduced mental clarity. The key insight is this: muscle loss is not inevitable. The body retains the ability to build and maintain muscle well into later decades, but it requires clear, consistent signals. Movement, resistance, adequate protein, and recovery all communicate safety and strength to the nervous system. When muscle is supported, hormones respond more favorably. Blood sugar stabilizes, energy becomes more predictable. Aging doesn't reverse, but it slows, often dramatically. Many people notice that after 50, recovery feels incomplete. A poor night of sleep lingers into the next day. Minor aches last longer than they used to. Even emotional stress seems to take more time to shake off. This isn't weakness. It's a sign that the body's repair systems are working with fewer resources and weaker signals. Repair in the body depends on timing, nutrients, and communication between systems. In earlier years, damage and repair are tightly coordinated. Cells sense stress, trigger a repair response, and return to balance quickly. With age, that communication becomes less precise. Signals arrive late or fail to fully activate the repair process. One reason is reduced protein utilization. Protein is the raw material for repairing muscle, enzymes, immune cells, and connective tissue. After midlife, the body becomes less responsive to protein intake, a phenomenon known as anabolic resistance. Even when people eat enough protein, the body doesn't always use it efficiently. This leads to slower tissue repair and gradual loss of strength. Sleep also changes in ways that affect repair. Deep sleep is when growth hormone is released and cellular maintenance is prioritized. As sleep becomes lighter and more fragmented, these repair windows shrink. The body still rests, but it doesn't rebuild as effectively. This explains why people can spend the same amount of time in bed, yet wake up feeling less refreshed. Another factor is reduced blood flow to tissues. Repair requires oxygen, nutrients, and immune cells to reach damaged areas. As circulation stiffens and microvascular flow declines, repair slows. This is especially noticeable in joints, tendons, and the lower back, where blood supply is already limited. The immune system also shifts focus with age. It becomes more reactive and less efficient, quick to produce inflammation, slower to resolve it. This means the body spends more energy signaling distress than completing repair. Minor stressors accumulate instead of being cleared. Importantly, none of this means the body has lost its ability to heal. It means repair requires clearer conditions. When the body senses constant stress, poor nutrition, inactivity, irregular sleep, it prioritizes survival over restoration. The encouraging truth is that repair systems respond rapidly when the environment improves. Supporting sleep quality, optimizing protein timing, encouraging circulation through movement, and reducing inflammatory signals all help restore repair capacity. Staying young is not about forcing recovery. It's about removing the obstacles that prevent the body from doing what it already knows how to do. Staying young does not require extreme routines, supplements, or chasing the latest health trend. What the body responds to most is consistency, a single daily signal that tells your systems it is safe to repair, rebuild, and adapt. That signal is intentional movement combined with recovery, not intensity, not exhaustion, but regular activation. The body interprets movement as a message. When muscles contract, blood sugar is pulled out of the bloodstream and into cells where it belongs. Inflammation quiets. Hormones involved in repair become more responsive. Circulation improves, delivering oxygen and nutrients to tissues that have been undersupplied. Even the brain receives a boost in chemicals that support mood and focus. This doesn't mean long workouts or punishing exercise. In fact, excessive intensity can backfire, increasing stress hormones and inflammation. What matters is daily engagement. Resistance training 2 to 3 times per week to protect muscle. Walking or gentle activity most days to support circulation and blood sugar balance. Mobility work to keep joints responsive and pain signals low. When movement becomes a daily reset, the effects compound. Sleep improves because the nervous system recognizes physical exertion as a reason to deepen rest. Protein is used more effectively because muscles are signaling demand. Hormonal balance stabilizes because the body senses strength instead of decline. Equally important is recovery. Aging accelerates when stress is constant and unrelieved. Recovery does not mean inactivity, it means deliberate rest. Deep breathing, consistent sleep timing, and periods of calm allow repair systems to switch on. This is when cellular cleanup improves and inflammation resolves. The most powerful part of this approach is that it works with the body, not against it. It does not require perfection. Missed days do not erase progress. What matters is returning to the signal regularly. Aging speeds up when the body loses its sense of purpose. Daily movement restores that purpose. It tells your cells that strength is still needed, repair is still worthwhile, and adaptation is still expected. Your body is not aging faster because it's failing. It's aging faster because it hasn't been given the right signals. When you restore those signals, movement, recovery, and consistency, the body often responds more quickly than people believe. If this helped you understand your body better, like and subscribe for more clear, science-backed guidance. And let us know your age in the comments. We're reading and replying to help you take the next step towards staying strong and healthy at any stage of life.